G'day guys, we've got another QGIS tutorial. This time we're going to be looking at how to do unsharp masking in QGIS using a bit of scripting. So what we're going to produce effectively is, so this is the original image and this is the unsharp masked image. And as you can see, the details are a little bit more sort of contrasty in the unsharp masked version. And the reason you might want to do this is perhaps, at least I've found it would be most handy for if you're taking a GPS out in the field and you want some really high contrast on your GPS screen, so that even in like sunlight, you know, when the sun's hitting the screen and it's a struggle to see, that's where the unsharp masking can really help. But I'm sure there are many other applications for it. So the way that we're going to do this is through a bit of PyQGIS, bit of code that I wrote here, which I'll put down in the description of this video. So basically it's fairly simple to set up. You need to set an input folder, which I've set here. And in the input folder is going to be a TIFF image. Keep in mind it has to be .tif. That's three characters. If it's TIFF, then it won't work. You'll just have to change the extension. And then a processing folder for it to store the sort of intermediate files, and then an output folder where it's going to output the resulting virtual raster, which we'll see in just a moment. Then finally, you might want to set the neighborhood size, which is the radius over which the unsharp masking effect will happen. And so that will affect whether you're emphasizing macro or more micro details in the image. And then finally, a factor by which the sharpening will occur. The image I just showed you was through a sharpening factor of 2. And if you want to make a super extreme contrast image, obviously you can up this to, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, whatever you want to set it to. Or if you obviously want a more mild factor, then I'm sure you can drop that down. So I'm going to go ahead and run this script. Even on a fairly small image like this, it does take a little bit to go through. If you've got a big image, I'm sure it'll take a while. There we go, so there's our result. So if you have a look at the original versus the new one, there is the unsharp masked result. So going to show up a whole lot more contrasty on a screen, which is fantastic and helpful for a lot of situations, I'm sure. Keep in mind that what this is outputted is a virtual raster. So if we have a look in the details here, we can see this is outputted a VRT, and when you do decide to output this as a TIFF, obviously you're going to want to go export, save as a rendered image, so that way it's going to go between 0 and 255 as the pixel values. And while we're talking about the values of 0 and 255, it is important to keep in mind that this code, and you may want to change this at some point, it reclassifies each band to make sure that the values stay between 0 and 255. Because if you don't do that, then you sort of lose a bit of contrast in the image. It's sort of like trying to show values that are like way above 255 in the resulting image, and that causes the overall contrast of the picture of the image to be reduced a little bit. If you're working with a TIFF that is not sort of an 8-bit rendered image like this original image I have here is, then you're going to want to change these values. So what will they want to be? So for my image, the RGB values go between 0 and 255, so hence I've got 0, 0, 255, and then 255 here. Now, if let's just pretend, for example, your values for some reason go between 0 and 3000, then you're probably going to want to set this to something like that, and you're going to need to do it in all the other instances of this reclassification further down. But for most situations, you should be working with an 8-bit image with values between 0 and 255, and sure enough, if we go ahead and query this sharpened image, we zoom in on this river flat down here, you'll see that in these pixels here, it's been sort of clipped in a way. The pixel values have been clipped to 255. Before the reclassification, they might have been much higher at say 300, 400, but in this instance, for the sake of contrast, they've been clipped to 255, and you'll see in the river we've got 0. you know, without the reclassification, these values probably would have been in the negative, but they've been reclassified to 0, just so we get that real contrasty look here in the image. So look, that's pretty much it. Have a go with it. Let me know if you have any dramas at all. Do leave a comment if you have any questions or any issues. Other than that, yeah, good luck.